When the EMP nuclear weapon goes off earlier than that, launched into space by North Korea disguised as a radio satellite, it takes out the entire grid. That's what an EMP exploded 300 miles over the center of the country would do. It's a colossal failure of everything electric.
So we have kind of talked about if North Korea sends nuclear warheads to the U.S., U.S. returns, they have to fly over Russia, Russia fires on us pretty much automatically, it sounds like. What about the other, 6 nations that have this type of capability? What are they going to do?
So the scenario I write takes place in 72 minutes. When the EMP nuclear weapon goes off earlier than that was there all along, launched into space by North Korea disguised as a radio satellite, it takes out the entire grid. That's what an EMP exploded 300 miles over the center of the country would do. It's just a massive failure it's a colossal failure of everything electric. And so in essence, the ability to understand what anyone is doing outside what you can physically see disappears. So for that reason, that's where the scenario ends, other than nuclear winter, meaning what did China do? What did India and Pakistan do? I don't know. But it was done specifically for that idea that continues to interest me is how did man become civilized?
Mm-hmm.
How did we figure out how to write? We only know so much about history back to where people started writing it down. It's just guesswork before then, archaeological interpretation. So man, 5,000 BC figures out how to write. That wasn't that long. So we've had a 7,000-year run of history. And once all electronics cease, in the world in which we live today, just the information goes. Everything on your computer is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Who writes longhand anymore besides me and a couple of others?
Not very many people.
Not very many people. So it's the end of civilization. It's the end of history, meaning the ability to report what happened. That's for that same reason I don't get into the geopolitics in my book, in the scenario of why it happens. Many books have been written about that. The geopolitical maneuvering, China, the long game, the great powers, all of that. That's been written by many people, and it's very interesting to think about. But it's not part of this book. This book is, here's what happens once the missile launches.
Okay. Did any of your sources start to tangent into that by chance?
Interestingly not.
Really?
Interestingly not. No, I mean, we just kept the focus. You only have so much time with the source, and you might want to just pull them back in. There were reasons to think about that in terms of my other books, for sure. Usually it's about how did we deter the Soviet Union, right? The CIA's paramilitary, which you know about from direct personal experience, was set up to counter the vicious activities of the Soviet Union, as if they were whatever they were doing, it was trying to weaken the United States and then attack us with nuclear weapons. So I've looked at it from all these different angles, but in this book, it's just game on, then what happens?
Okay. And you picked North Korea because
Garwin
loose cannon
made me think about this idea of a mad king, the sort of madman with a nuclear arsenal, which, I mean, I think your reference to suicide bombers is, and it's a reason why most people in the West would tell you that Iran should never have a nuclear bomb. I mean, the fundamentals of their governance is real, religion-based, and their ideas about the end of the world are frightening. I mean, they are very apocalyptic. They are very apocalyptic in their thinking. Like, the apocalypse is fine. That's not someone you want with a nuclear arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Do you know how many nuclear warheads the other 6 countries have? How many does India have?
And also just to like shout out to anyone who wants to nerd out on this, is that there's an organization led by a guy called Hans Christensen. He writes the Nuclear Notebook with a team of people. Matt Korda, Ileana Reynolds. And that's inside the Federation of American Scientists. And they keep track of the nuclear warheads to the best of their ability based on what is transparent. That's why they change every year. So they write these long monographs, which are profoundly important to people like me. Who has what, where, what we know about them, and why. Really important to understand the system of systems we're up against. So my information comes from them. And so China last year was reported to have 400 nuclear weapons. This year they have 500. That is deeply concerning. The Defense Department believes that in the next 10 years, China will have 1,500. That's deeply concerning. Russia is not building new nuclear weapons, allegedly. Neither are we. India and Pakistan are understood to have about 165, I think it is, each.
Okay.
But when you really drill down on it, you realize that we don't really know. The transparency from them is limited, and how much intelligence the agency has on it is anyone's guess.
What about our allies? What about UK and France?
UK, I believe, has about 200, and I'm forgetting the exact number of France right now. But the UK is interesting because they have reduced their weapons systems down to only submarines, which is really interesting. A lot of disarmament advocates believe that the United States, for safety and security reasons, should get rid of the ICBMs, that they're just too dangerous, that the nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered submarines, they have enough capacity to end civilization in a single submarine. We have 14 of them. So why do you need all of the other equipment? Well, you can get into that whole sort of deterrence spin. But that is a legitimate point, that the ICBMs are dangerous. The ICBMs are the one also that could be misinterpreted as coming over the pole. You know, the sub-launched ballistic missiles can land on a target in under 10 minutes.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.